So welcome to JG's Fight Talk, sponsored by Cornerstone Boxing Academy. And with me now, I've got Wayne McCullough. How you doing, Wayne?
Great, thanks for having me on.
Honestly, it's an absolute privilege. My mates have been banging on at me as soon as I told them that you were coming on. As I say, we just had the debate about your surname, and they're still going to argue about it because, you know, we've all watched different videos on YouTube of your fights, and everyone says it differently, don't they?
Yeah, well, it's like whatever way you want to say it. I did say it before I came to America. I was said McCullough, but when I came here, they said McCullough, and they say over here, even over here, the way it's spelled, they still pronounce it McCullough. So I've lived here longer than I lived in Belfast. So which one's right?
Yeah. Well, either way, it takes nothing away from the career you had. 34 fights, 27 wins, 18 knockouts. One hell of a career.
Yeah, we'll see. At 27-7 as the losses, but I consider some of my losses I should have won. Of course, it's just the way it goes in boxing. Even my amateur career, I had 319 fights and I lost 11, and I probably lost about 7. You know what I mean? So people get bad decisions all the time, but I had 353 fights amateur and pro, and it's a lot of fights. A lot of getting hit up the head, but as I say, I tried to slip under and sort of avoid shots, and my coach Eddie Fudge, when I turned pro, taught me how to do that and take the impact of the shot, so that like today I could actually speak to you without mumbling my words.
Yeah. Well, and you weren't called Pocket Rocket for no reason.
Yeah, well, that nickname, one of my teammates in '88, I was actually about this size. I was in my first Olympic team. I just turned 17, and he said, "Oh, you're small. You can fit in my pocket, and you throw punches like a rocket." So I said, "We'll call you the Pocket Rocket." A guy called Kieran Joyce from Cork, actually, he's the guy that nicknamed me the Pocket Rocket. So I'll take it.
Well. No, and Stephen McGurr's jumped in already. He's put, "Great to see you, Wayne. The best chin I've ever seen."
Well, I always say that because I got the best chin in boxing by Ring Magazine, like back in 2001. But I'm like, does that mean I get hit? But no, I did take a good shot. But as I say, a lot of the commentators and all, they didn't look at the fact that Eddie had me when I was getting inside like this. The right hand comes out, catching like this or this or this, and taking the impact off, and all my cuts were on the top of my head up here. So I'd rather be cut up on the top of the head than be cut all around the eyes. And I did get hit on the chin. I did have a good chin. I must say I did. But as I say, if they give me the best chin in boxing, I'll take it, because I think Jake LaMotte was one of the guys who had a hard chin, and he could drop later on in his career. I never touched a canvas my whole career. I'm amateur pro, so I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah. No, incredible. And you spoke about your amateur career there, but you had your pro debut on the 23rd of February 1993. I won't tell you how old I was. But start as you mean to go on. You had a 20 win streak.
Yeah, my first fight, I left Belfast on Saturday, and my pro debut was on Tuesday night in California. So I was in the country 3 days. I got here on a Saturday night, and 3 days later, and it was on USA Channel, which they had a weekly show on TV. So I got television from the get-go, and when we got to my Reseda, California was my debut, and when we got there, the Irish people, they always turn up. And we sold out my first fight. I was in the country 3 days and it was sold out. So, and I remember at the end, you're getting small money. The promoter, Dan Goosen, gave me an extra $1,000 because I sold out. So that was nice of him to do that. But that was the start of my career against Alfonso Zamora, and then I started. I was busy. Had 20. I went to 20-0 with before I got my controversial split decision loss for my second belt. So there was no shame in it against Daniel Zaragoza. But
not too.
I fought pretty regular back then. I mean, back then people fought regular. My first 7 fights in 16 weeks. So it's busy.
Yeah. You think you had Medina for the North America title, which I suppose we didn't know too much about over here. Whilst I say now, but it's that was a big title to have.
Yeah, it's probably like a combination of the British, European, Commonwealth Championship together. The North American is the whole of America, Canada, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. So that's a big population of people.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I have an Irishman fighting for the NBF belt, the North American. But I said I fought an undefeated Puerto Rican, and I stopped him in the 7th round. It was a fight it was one of them fights that I wanted to hurt somebody, you know what I mean? Because the guy disrespected me so much before. He had posters in the hotel, wrote on it what he was going to do to me. And I'm like, I never met this guy in my life, and what's he going to do to me? So I dropped him twice, and then I stopped him. So that was good. My first belt, it put me to. It's not a word people don't understand. It's not a world championship belt. It's just a belt that gets you to the next level, and it puts you in the top 10 in the world, and it put me number 5 in the WBC. So that was okay. I'll take that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you were a fast mover. That's all I'm going to say. Then the following year, my pronunciation isn't very good. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Against the Japanese fella, as they described him.
Go for it.
For the for the WBC World Bantamweight title, Yakiyushu.
Not the worst of her. No, his name is Yashui Yakishiji.
All right, Wayne.
I'm like you. I didn't know what it was until they told me what it was. But no, he was. I must say, I had an elimination fight against Victor Rabanales in '94, and I was probably one of the toughest fights of my life because he had 50 fights and I had my 13th fight. He was champion of the world before, number 1 contender. I beat him to get the number 1 spot, and then of course that put me in line to fight Yakishiji right after that. But that was June '94. I beat Rabanales, and I had to wait until July of 1995.
Yeah.
And because they wanted to have a fight in between, and I was like, okay, I was only in my 13th fight against Rabanales, so I actually had 2 more fights in between and stayed busy, and actually 3 more fights. I had 3 more fights. It was like you had 3 more fights. Fought a former world champion as well, beat him, and I stayed busy and stayed active. And then I was ready for Yakishiji in July of '95. And going to Japan was a big thing. I didn't know it was a big thing then because I was just focused on the fight. And Eddie Fudge gave me the game plan. We worked on it in the gym, like in the ring, like every day, over and over for weeks. And Yakishiji he was taller than me, tall guy with a good jab. And Eddie had me trying to slip off the side, throw the jabs that way, that way. And I did that so much in the gym, training for the fight, that when it came to the fight, it became like automatic. And the fight, I say, it wasn't easy. He was making the 5th defense of his WBC belt.
Yeah.
And as I say, I didn't know at the time, but there was no Irish or British fighter ever went to Japan and won a championship. And I didn't know that, which is probably good.
Yeah, you were the first one.
But it was probably a good thing I didn't know because it would have been a lot more pressure on me. And then when I won it, then the commentators like on Sky then said that, I'm like, well, and I didn't know how big a thing it was then because I was just focused on winning. And we Eddie Fudge in the corner. It was like, having him in the corner was it was like it gave you more confidence, man. Just give you the confidence to go in there and you get beat anyway. And we did that. Got a split decision, but I'd won the fight like probably 8 rounds to 4. But we knew the Korean judge was going to give it to him, but the 2 American judges gave it to me by 4 points and 5 points. So we secured the victory and let's say got the belt.
Well, Stephen McGurr's jumped in. He's put the best away win by an Irishman in my lifetime. And Stephen's not young, by the way.
How old is he? No. No, thank you so much. No, I really appreciate that. I really do. It's I say even in Japan, the Irish fans turned up.
They turn up everywhere, though, Wayne. Yeah, they're the best fans out there, aren't they?
I see Irish fans, lots of English fans who have the Irish blood and stuff like that. We go on to, I say, when we talk about handmade and stuff, and that was unbelievable. But in Japan, they turned up. My debut in America, they turned up. Everywhere I fought, there was always a couple of hundred fans turned up at small fights. When you get the big fights, you're talking thousands. You know what I mean? So, but they always I say they always stuck by me. The fans always stuck by me through thick and thin, and I really always appreciate that. My fans around the world, you know what I mean, and the Irish fans. I say the Irish fans are around the world, but not just Ireland. They're around the world. You know what I mean? So even as an amateur, I fought in like Australia and New Zealand. There was Irish fans come out then, so they always support you really well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, you were obviously well worth supporting as well. Do you know what I mean? I know they get behind their own, but you know, if they see talent, they see potential and someone who can take their country, then they get behind them. And you know, you were even described, I think, by Carl Frampton as his favourite Irish fighter of all time.
Yeah, well, Carl and me are good friends. You know what I mean? I'm honoured to be. He said I'm his hero, which is, you know, when somebody says that to you, it's like, and somebody like him goes on to become a world champion. It's you know, we're friends. I say good friends, and I love Carl, and I really appreciate him saying that, because he could have chose anybody. You know what I mean? But I have a picture of when he was actually a boy with my belt. So when he grown up, he was here like a year or two ago when he fought, and we got pictures together. It was funny, but you know, Carl had an amazing career.
Yeah.
You know, of course, he's up there with the top three as well. You know what I mean? The top three Irish fighters of all time. So, Carl, I say I'm glad to call him a friend.
Yeah, no, well, and he obviously thinks a lot of you, and you know, some of the fights you've had over your career. Prince Nassim Hamid, a lot of people can't say they've been the whole way with him. You know, it might not have gone your way, but to go the distance, Eric Morales, the same. Incredible fights, Wayne, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think the Hamid fight, you know, don't want to drag it out, but Hamid fought my undercard in Dublin in 1993. So it was I was like down at the Tala basketball arena. He fought there, and then in '96 he defended his belt in Dublin against Manuel Medina. But before that fight, he put posters all around Dublin to say, "Forget about McCullough, come see the Prince." And somebody told me this and sent me pictures. I'm like, why is he saying about me? I'm bantamweight champion, he's featherweight champion. You know, there's no like, we're two weight classes apart. But I jumped on a flight, and I met him at the Guinness factory when he was having his weigh-in, and he wrote in the papers that my wife is scared of me fighting him. So once you bring the family into it, to sort of, you don't do that. So I confronted him at the Guinness factory, and he had his whole entourage around him. I had my friend Nick Devine, and he sort of like stay away from me. My friend just pulled me away, and I'm like, okay. I went to the fight. Frank Warren gave me tickets as far back as you could at the arena, as you could see. But once I get in the arena, people start recognizing me, and then Sky TV were there, and they actually propped me up and set me right behind Hamid's father. And during the whole fight, the Medina fight, the fans started singing, "Wayne McCullough, Wayne McCullough." So I'm sure, and he won the fight that night, but he didn't look good. And that was the time that Frank Warren said he was going to give me like £1 million, and then he wrote down $1 million, and the difference was back then. Like
that's not quite the same, is it?
No, but then a wee after McCullough $1 million. I'm like, well, he offered me £1 million, so there's a big difference here. And the fight didn't. I say 96, 97. It was 98 when the fight happened, and the fight happened with Hamid because I fought a guy, Juan Polo Perez, former world champion. I fought him over 10 rounds, beat him, and I looked like garbage. I looked terrible. I was still excited enough, but I looked terrible, what I think myself. And Hamid had knocked him out in 2 rounds. So when that fight was over, it was May of '98, and then like that weekend we got a call. My wife.
Oh, Wayne, I've lost you at the moment. Hopefully Wayne will be back with us shortly. I think he's got trouble with his signal at the moment. But hopefully his signal will come back. But hopefully he'll join us again. So yeah, just going to wait for Wayne to come back. I know it's one of those things where technical difficulties. I know he's in the gym. Someone's put on there, it's a stoppage. Oh dear. Thanks, Pete. Yeah, we'll just wait for him to come back in. As I say, he's down at the gym. I know technical difficulties. He's had a bit of trouble with the sound, but I'm sure he'll make his way back in. Just send him a message. But yeah, we're doing well up to that point. Stephen McGurr's jumped in and he's put great stuff, Joel. Yeah, brilliant up to that point. Let's say he's got a massive fan base. When we look through, some of his achievements, the WBC World Bantamweight title, to win gold at the Auckland Commonwealth Games, to win bronze at the Mumbai World Cup, to then go and get his silver at the Barcelona Olympic Games, to beat Gatti as an amateur. This guy's, is something special, Wayne. And, he just looks at himself as a normal guy. And I think that's what makes his fans even more, even more appreciative of him, because he's not one of those guys that, bangs on about his achievements. He's a really modest guy, and I think that goes a long way with people. Hang on, I better send him the link again. You got to expect the unexpected on these things. It's always the way. But yeah, keep pouring in with your questions. Stephen's jumped in and put, P.S. I'm not that old, fuck's sake. Ahmed's best shots, 100%. There's not many people out there that could take the shots like that, especially against a guy like that. So just sending that back over to Wayne now. Hopefully he'll pick that up. So just waiting for him to pick that up. But yeah, keep your comments coming in. Do you have him as the number one Irish fighter of all time? People have said Carl Frampton. A lot of people have said Barry McGuigan. A lot of people have said Wayne. So, just go back through your comments. As we were saying, best chin ever seen. A lot of people came out with that. Best away winner, the Irishman in his lifetime, and that's from Stephen. Hopefully we can get him back on. And then we'll go from there. But I think we'll just wait to see if he can join the link again. Stephen's put on here, he's certainly in the top 3 for me. Who's your other two? Who's your other two in your top 3? As I say, we're just waiting for Wayne to come back in. See if we can give him a quick call. See if we can get him coming back on. You're right there, Wayne. Your signal dropped out. Okay, no worries. Okay, no worries. Oh, no worries. See you soon. Bye. So just speaking of Wayne, his wife's trying to sort out his Wi-Fi signal at the moment. He said he's never had a problem. And then he comes on JG's Fight Talk and he has one. I'm not blaming myself. I'm going to blame Stephen McGurr, chucking all the questions at him. Peter Jackson has put Steve Collins for him. Yeah, tough bugger he was. Oh, Steve. Stephen McGurr's put Carl Frampton would be in there. Number 3 would be a toss-up between a few guys, but those two, my favourites. So, yeah, Um, that's how it seems to go, isn't it? It's there's some great Irish fighters out there, and it's as I say, Wayne's definitely in the mix. Here we are.
Right. Well, the one time.
Hey, good old wife.
It's just, well, have this. She's out. It's like, okay, do this, do this, do this. I'm like, I've never had that happen before in the last 2 years. You know what I mean? But
behind every world champion is an amazing wife.
Yeah, she was by my side the whole time. So
we've had comments flying in, mate. We've had comments flying in. Stephen McGurr's put in my top 3. Someone's put Steve Collins would be up there as one of the best.
Yeah, but there's a lot of legend. Jimmy McCullough, was more or less our first legit champion back in the 30s. And you go right up.
We got Marty Mack. The build-up for your fight with Johnson Todd in the amateur circles was electric. The fight was amazing.
How old are
you? Did the fact Todd KO'd Roy Nash worry you, Wayne?
No, the funny thing about that is when I fought Todd, people were coming up to me. I moved up I was flyweight 1990, the Commonwealth Games gold, and then I moved up to bantamweight that year and got a bronze at the World Cup. And that's where Todd was. Roy Nash was that weight, and John Laurie. And Roy got knocked out by Todd in the Ulsters. So when I moved up, everybody just thought, he's going to walk through me. And I'm thinking, I just came home with a bronze medal from the World Cup. And the World Cup wasn't like the Olympics or World Championship. When you lost your semi-final, you had to fight for the other losing semi-finals there's only one bronze medal. So yeah. 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze. And I say I'm the only Irish guy to ever win a World Cup medal. It was the toughest competition I've been in because I fought 4 fights to get a bronze medal. And but everybody didn't look at that. They looked at the fact he knocked out Roy Nash. And Roy was a great amateur fighter. But my style was more like an amateur pro and moving around, body shots and stuff. And when Todd got in there in the Ulsters, and it was the end of 91ish. Yeah, he came out and he could bang. His southpaw he could bang, but I was like boxing around, moving around, bump, boxing, bump. Just showing you a little bit of my. I'll still have it, I think. Moving around, bump, and the southpaw. When the southpaw comes in, they're looking for that big bump. But I was just here to turn over to get, bump, and moving. My movement, and I actually dropped him in the end of I think it was the second round, with left hook, and I gave him a standing count, and I won on the old scorecards pretty easily. But Todd's a great person. I knew him really well after that. We fought each other 4 weeks later on the All-Ireland as well, in the semi-finals, and I beat him again. And that year I was supposed to fight in the final of the Irish Championship, and I got the chicken pox. I couldn't fight the final of the Irish the week later. But Todd was a hell of a fighter. He punch hard. But I was punching pretty hard too, you know what I mean then? And
yeah,
great fighter. But I say what he just said there, people were coming out to me, like the fake fans. Not the fans like yes who remember you, and they were coming up to me and said, "This is before the fight, like a few days before it, in the streets," and said, "Todd's going to knock you out." And I said to them, "Are you going to be there?" And like, "Yeah, but he's going to knock you out." I'm like, "Okay, we'll be there." And I wasn't being cocky or anything, just be there. And I had that from about 10 different people, and I thought, they're the ones who are fans who are going to go back and forth with people. And I remember that it was a sold-out Ulster Hall, and the atmosphere was electric, you know what I mean? But I'd say I just boxed him and moved around. I thought, you box a puncher and fight the boxer, you know what I mean? And I did that. I boxed him and moved around, and I say the punches I was landing was 2-1, and I say I beat him pretty convincingly. But the build-up was actually for an amateur fight. It was probably the biggest build-up I've ever seen, and it was sold out to Ulster Hall, and people couldn't get in to watch it. But as I say, I just said to people, "Are you going to be there? If you're there, that's fine." And the atmosphere was fantastic. I should post that. I've got that fight. I should post it out there just for people to see. It's the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And Jansen Todd was a hell of a man. He really was. He was a great man. I know he's dead, but he was a great man, great fighter. And I say we traveled together too, so he's a great person.
Yeah, Marty has said, and was he the hardest puncher you faced in the amateurs?
He did hit hard, but I think the hardest puncher I fought was probably the semi-final of the Olympics, the North Korean, I'll say this for Gwang Sik Lee.
Yeah, thank you.
No, he had Gwang Sik Lee had knocked out the world champion in the quarterfinals. So when he thought right away he's going to be favourite for gold. And then I fought him in the semi-finals, and we stood toe to toe for like 3 rounds. And he cracked my cheekbone in 3 places, busted a nerve. And I went into the final with that because it was my last fight. I wasn't going to pull out, and against Casimir, but he hit me with punches, from every direction. He fought like a pro, just inside, and elbows were landing, everything, and he hit really hard. Mm-hmm. And Todd was a good hard puncher, but I boxed him and took the impact away. Where the Gwang Sik Lee, we just stood toe to toe, and Todd was probably the second hardest puncher, but Gwang Sik Lee was definitely the hardest puncher in the amateurs.
Yeah.
He did damage to my cheekbone.
A dear friend of mine, Luke Byrne, a diabetic boxer who's coming through the ranks. He's in the amateurs at the moment, but looking to come through the pros. He'll probably get in contact with you, Wayne. He said, would you swap your WBC title for a gold medal?
That was a quick answer, wasn't it? No, the funny thing is, when I was 15, I wanted to be WBC world champion, and that sounded, when you're 15, that sounds like a pipe dream, you know what I mean? But I told my friends, see Muhammad Ali with a green and gold belt, and not disrespecting all the other belts and that. As a kid, you get these dreams. You want to be this, you want to be that. But I was a fighter. I was winning juveniles, youth. At that 15, 16, I was going to the juniors. And my dream was to focus on that dream, but I knew I had to get something before I got to the professionals, like a medal of some sort. And to say 19, I got the Commonwealth gold. I was ready to go pro. And then that year I got the bronze medal at the World Cup. And then my amateur coach convinced me to stay amateur for 2 more years. I was 19 thinking I was a man, but I was only about this side, hadn't fully grown. I didn't grow that much, but it hadn't fully grown. But I went on to get the silver medal. And that silver medal for me, people always say you won the silver medal, and I'm the opposite. I'm like, but I lost. That's me.
Yeah.
I lost a very close fight. But I think when you say something like that, it makes you feel like I want to get better. I'm like just because I want a silver medal. Yeah, I'm not going to be like that. It's great to win a medal for your country, but my gold medal, like I always say to people, was the gold and the green belt, the WBC belt. When I put that around my waist, I just fought 12 rounds. That's equivalent to 4 amateur fights in one night. And I wouldn't change it because the WBC belt, I was the first Irish fighter to win the WBC belt, and Katie Taylor's the only one who's get it since. So that goes to show you how the WBC belt is probably the most prestige at the minute. I'm not running any belts down because I fought handmade for the WBO.
Yeah.
And as I say, that's a good question about people say the Olympic medal, but the Olympic medal is the honor for your whole country. But when the WBC belt is global, you know what I mean? It's global. I know the Olympics is global, but that's just the whole, around the world. You're the professional world champion. You're not the amateur world champion. You're the professional. And I'd say the WBC belt is the most important thing. The Olympic medal, when you put that onto people like, oh, they're so touched by the Olympic.
Wayne's definitely struggling with that connection today. He's frozen again. But what we will say is, Marty Mack has pretty much summed it up. I think you're a true inspiration in Irish boxing for my favourite Irish fighter ever. I know Wayne's been struggling with the connection on this one. But hopefully, we can sum it up there, really. Fantastic career, like we were saying, 34 fights, 27 wins, 18 knockouts. Amateur career, 319 wins, 11 defeats. Pro debut in 93. Went on to win the North American in 94. Went on to win the WBC World Bantamweight title in 95. Boxed Prince Nassim and went the distance in 98. went the distance with Eric Morales, 99. You know, this guy's something really special in the sport, and you know, privileged to have him on. I know, as I say, he's had trouble with his connection, but what an incredible individual. Yeah, there's not much else to say. The comments have been pouring in, people talking about their favourite Irish fighters. Ender's been chatting in there. Excellent. He's been putting all sorts of comments in there, but you know, it just shows how much this guy means to boxing fans and means to Ireland. You know, Northern Ireland, America. He's literally conquered it all, and he's proved his worth. And I think that shows what sort of guy he really is. Marty Max, brilliant, Joel. Well done. That, to be honest, the interviews are as easy as they are when you've got someone like that, because they're just the best people to talk to and easiest to work with. But yeah, we'll end it on the fact that Stephen McGurr is still older than I think he is, and he won't say anything else, to be honest. GB Boxing, 100% great representative for this island. Yeah, incredible individual. Stephen McGurr, great guy too. So yeah, if you've enjoyed the interview, make sure you hit the subscribe button and leave us a comment below. Staying in contact with him. Hopefully we can get him on for some prediction shows at some point as well. Gutted the connection has been a bit of an issue, but you know, as I say, just fantastic to have him on. Fantastic to be able to talk to him. Yeah, just brilliant, really. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave some comments below as well, and hopefully we'll see you all soon. I know we've got live watch along coming up next week. It's a bit of a quiet one for boxing this weekend. So yeah, we'll be back next week. We've got an interview coming on Monday. And obviously Ben versus Eubank Jr. next weekend. We'll do a live watch along for that one. So yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.